Welcome. So we are going to be starting with the Pilates ball. And again, just make sure that it is not solid, hard. You do want it to have some give, okay? All right, looks like it's time to start. So we will be starting with this ball. It's going to be going behind your upper back area. Now we're going to start with it back there, and it's going to be just a stretch to begin with. Some of you may decide that you need a little support under your head. That could be a block, a thin block. It could be a little pillow or a towel or something. So we're going to be just stretching over the ball first so that we can kind of come into this space and arrive in this moment, just arriving here with a little bit of an opening of our heart. So you'll be laying over the ball and your head, please have it touching something. So if it is not touching the ground comfortably, please, a pillow, a block. You could even put your hands behind there. You're getting a chest stretch when you do that as well. So that's another option. But what I don't want to see is this big dangling situation where you're overstretching in the neck and potentially causing some pinching in the back of the neck. Okay, so you're going to get yourself set up over your Pilates ball. It's going to be in the middle upper back area. So I'll show you from a few different angles what this is going to look like. So here I've got this ball and I'm just laying. If the head is not touching the ground, again, of course, you're going to be placing something for some support. So if I was like this, because I'm super locked up in my thoracic spine, my head is dangling, I'm going to start feeling a pinch back here. So please, 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 something under your head if that's happening. It could even be your own hands. Okay, but if that's not comfortable, a towel or maybe a small block, or some of you even a big block if you are really locked up in this area. And then you'll find something comfortable with the lower body. So some of you might have your legs extended. If you're feeling too much on the lower back, I recommend bending your knees for a little bit more support. And then once you have yourself situated, take a big belly breath. And then open your mouth and sigh it out. Let's do that again. Take a big, big belly breath. And open your mouth and sigh it out. And if you're not coming to a place of relaxation yet, maybe you take a couple more big breaths and a couple more sighs. If you feel like you're starting to settle in, you can close your lips and begin to breathe in and out of the nose. If your eyes are not closed, maybe close them or take a gentle gaze on the ceiling there. So we're not staring at anything. You're either gently closing your eyes or you're taking a gentle gaze. So we'll be here for about 5 more intentional breaths. So they'll be deep and consistently long. Maybe even the exhale is a little longer than the inhale. We're slowing the breath, arriving in this moment. And then in this space of openness in our heart chakra, as well as our heart meridian, let's invite in what it is that we need to fill up our hearts. Just inviting it in. That's going to be different for every one of us, but what is it right now in this moment that would fill you up? And let that settle right into your heart center. And then if your hands are not already behind your head, you'll go ahead and place them back there. You'll remove any support, whether it be a block or a pillow. And then you're going to be lifting the head up. So I'm putting a little more pressure on the middle back. And with this Pilates ball, even though it's, it's pressure, it's not intense, which is what we want. We want to slowly work our way into this opening. Now, from here, you can lift your hips and start to roll, and your ball will probably make some funny noises. Mine is. And roll up and down. And so what we're doing here, and again, your knees are bent and you're pushing with your feet. If you're not already there, go ahead and bend your knees. Press back and forth with the feet. So you're rolling up and down, getting quite a bit of the superficial tissue on the upper back area. Just a few more times rolling. You can even roll all the way to the base of your neck, even to the base of your skull if that feels good. Roll it back down to maybe middle back. And eventually the ball will land once again at about middle back. And then just a little sideways action. So I'm leaning my left elbow towards my left hip. And then back to center. And you want to go really slowly here, guys. So here's the thing about this ball. It should be grabbing onto the tissue of your upper back, okay? So if it's not, you probably need to slow down, or maybe you have too thick of material between yourself and the ball, okay? So if that's the case, then you may want to just come into a t-shirt or a tank top or a sports bra or something like that. And again, if you don't have a Pilates ball, I recommend you get one for sure. But if you don't, you can stick with more of a stretch. And as I mentioned earlier, maybe it's just simply over a couch pillow or something like that. So you're either stretching over something like a roller, or it could even be a foam roller, a couch pillow, or your Pilates ball, or you're just doing some slow, intentional movements, working the superficial tissue on the upper back. Good. All right. And then we're going to slowly make our way up. You can either sit up or roll to the side to make your way up and off of the ball. All right, guys, we're going to move on. I'll let one more person in. Okay. So we're going to move on. And so we're going to be using your yoga tune-up balls. So that's going to be these guys that are in your tote, but you're going to take them out of your tote. Now, we are going to be addressing the same area, but this is going to be a little bit more intense because, of course, the balls are a little harder. So we've kind of warmed up the area by using this Pilates ball. Now we're going to go a little deeper. If it's too intense, there's a wall option, and I'll show you that in a moment. So it's around the same area. So I'm going to put the balls on the ground there, and then I'm going to be bringing my body onto those balls. So it's straddling my spine and more towards my upper back. So you can see they're tucked underneath there on my upper back. Now I control the intensity of this. If I lift my hips, ooh, yeah, that's a lot more. If I don't lift my hips, then it's a little bit less. We're going to start with a similar thing where we're just going to be laying on the ball. So it's a little bit of a stretch up and over the balls, pressure on the middle upper back area. Once you have yourself situated here, find a place where you can breathe. If it's too much, maybe they need to go up or down. And again, I'll show you a wall version in a moment. But eventually you're going to start moving your arms around. So maybe like a snow angel, or maybe one arm up, one arm down. Again, if that's not working for you at all, I recommend you take it to the wall. Okay, you're going to have to kind of place them back there, and then you'll lean in and you can do the same kinds of things. Moving my arms around. Yes. So choose the version that's going to serve you best, please. And you'll know what serves you best by checking in with your breath. So if you want to know how you're doing, here's the rule of thumb: check your breath. Okay, if your breath is shallow, that is a sign of stress. Okay, so make sure you're coming into a place where you are able to move towards your parasympathetic nervous system. That is your rest, digest, recover system. All right, guys. So you can, again, just relax back on the ground and move those arms. Other options, you could place your hands behind your head. Similar to what we did with the Pilates ball, we can just gently move side to side. You could, as I mentioned earlier, you could lift those hips up. This is intense, so be careful. And if you do that, maybe you roll those balls all the way to the top of the back, and then maybe more towards that middle back again. You could do the same thing on the wall. You'd place those balls back there, and then you'd just straighten and bend those legs. You get a little squatting action when you do this. You get a little exercise too, but it is not nearly as intense because, of course, it's only a portion of my body weight now on there. So I make all kinds of suggestions when we're doing this, and then you really honor where you are and you do what serves you. Okay, I'm making the suggestion that you move your arms around, but maybe it makes more sense for you to just stay and take some deep, expansive breaths. Okay, maybe it makes sense to lift up and roll back and forth, or twist side to side. So other ways you can reduce the intensity if it's too intense, and I know this can be, you could put a towel or another layer underneath your mat or be on carpet. What that's going to do is absorb some of the pressure. So if you're on a hard surface, a lot more pressure. If you're on a softer surface, not as much pressure. And then, of course, the wall is another option. You have 5 more breaths, so go ahead and take those big, expansive breaths. Slow, intentional breaths here. And one more of your biggest, most expansive breath. And a slow exhale. All right, carefully come off the balls, either support your head and sit up or roll to the side, whatever makes the most sense for you. And then you're going to be coming onto hands and knees. And first, we're going to move through a little bit of cat-cow action, really focusing on that upper back, moving from there first. So tuck your chin and then round through your spine and see if you can lean a little forward and get more of this upper back, middle upper back, thoracic spine. And then lead from that space as you move into a little bit of a cow pose. So I'm really dropping my ribs and pulling my heart forward, opening my heart up, and then tucking and rounding. So we're working into that Hearts Meridian line. Inhaling, heart moves forward. Exhaling back and forth, you move with breath. All right. So now you can either stay in hips over knees and walk yourself on a diagonal, or maybe you move your hips back, whichever feels better in your body. So we're walking both sets of arms to the left and then really reaching out the right arm. So if you're familiar with melting heart pose in yoga, this is just a diagonal version of that. So melting heart is usually to the front. We're taking a diagonal version. Focus on this armpit, latissimus dorsi, lat area on this right arm. My left elbow or forearm is on the ground over here, and then I'm really reaching through my right arm, breathing into the spaces all along the side body here. Again, tapping into your Hearts Meridian line here, breathing into that. And 2 more big breaths. And then you'll slowly walk it to the opposite side and focus on that left armpit area outside of the body on the left side. The heart meridian line is called the house of the spirit, which of course probably makes sense, but it is labeled as the house of the spirit. When our heart meridian line is in balance, we feel emotionally balanced, spiritually balanced, we feel spiritual growth. We have a sense of tranquility and gentleness about ourselves. We feel wise. And a zest for life. Go ahead and bring it on back. Good. All right. So as promised, we're also going to be focusing on our hips a little bit today. And if you saw my Facebook post, I said your hips don't lie. They actually tell us a lot about what's going on or what might happen with our bodies. So we're going to be taking our 2 yoga 2-net balls. They are going to be going one under each cheek. So you're going to be lifting your hips up, placing the balls underneath you on your glutes. And then you'll bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees come out wide. Now, if that does not work for you in your hips or your knees, then just leave the soles of the feet on the earth. If it's uncomfortable, but you think a little support might work, maybe a block or blocks under your hips would be beneficial. So you make sure you're taking care of you. And then we'll take about 5 breaths here, just letting gravity do the work. Softening into this. So when I say your hips don't lie, your hips will actually determine a lot about your future, what is going to potentially happen physically. So if your hips are locked up, some of you heard me say this earlier, some of you are hearing it for the first time. If your hips are locked up, they're actually weak. And if they're weak, they cannot do their job to support your lower back, your hips themselves, or your knees. Very important to have your hips pliable, mobile, and strong. It all works together. All right, so whether your knees are out or the soles of the feet are on the earth, you're gonna start to shift your hips left to right. It's a little shimmy, shimmy, side to side. So the balls will travel across your glutes, left to right, left to right. Okay, so again, if your soles of your feet on the ground, no problem. Knees are out, no problem. You've got a little inner thigh release if your knees are out. It also exposes your piriformis. If you're familiar with that, that's an area that when it gets locked down can cause sciatica. So we definitely want to make sure that area is not stuck. All right, so go ahead and bring the soles of your feet to the earth if they're not already. You're gonna remove the ball from your left glute and just set it off to the side. And then just your right knee will go out and then it comes back in. You're just gonna keep repeating that. Knee goes out and comes back in. And while you do this, you're gonna pay attention to what you're feeling. Maybe you need to move it to another location. In fact, I like to do one or two with the knee going out and then just move it to another location. So I cover my whole glute. So the knee goes out and in, and then I move it up or down or left or right. The knee goes out and in, out and in. And if you find an area where it makes sense to stay longer, then you stay longer. Now, that being said, if you find an area where you're gritting your teeth, you can no longer take a deep breath, you got to move it to another location. Okay, that's too much. And again, maybe to another location. And then eventually you'll just pause with your right knee out to the right, and you'll start to shimmy your hips side to side again. So left to right, left to right. Again, if your hips don't like this or your knee doesn't like it, just bring the soles of the feet back to the earth. If the ball walks off your body, just put it back. And one more option here, you could cross your right ankle over your left thigh and continue to shimmy back and forth. Again, that exposes your piriformis a bit, so that can be a lot. You'll know it's too much if you cannot take a deep breath. And while you're going here, check in. If all of this is too much, again, you know the wall is an option. You just put the ball on the wall and you do the same kinds of things. Side to side, you could even go up and down here. You could even do some of the knee going out and in. Okay. Now, if it doesn't seem like it's enough for you, you could also sit up on that ball. So hands to the ground, sitting on the ball. You could do all the same kinds of things, clamshelling the knee out to the side, shimmying those hips left and right. If you're sitting, you could even do circles or go up and down. So to me, I feel like I've been doing this whole stuff for 30 years. So for me, what I feel like the missing link is for yoga practice and for workouts is this myofascial release. A lot of people do stretching, that's awesome. A lot of people do strength work, fantastic. But this little bit, this just self massage, is the missing link for most folks, getting this tissue unstuck, dealing with the fascial system. You have 5 more breaths on this side, and then we will move on to a stretch for this side. All right, so we were on the right side, so we're going to address the right hip with a stretch now. We're going to be taking what we call a 90-90 stretch. So I've got my legs 90 degrees and 90 degrees. Now you're going to pay attention to your knees. If your knees don't like 90 degrees, they might like the foot a little closer to you in the front, or maybe the foot a little closer to you in the back. Okay, so we do need to work on internal rotation, most of us. So this 90-degree angle on this back leg will actually work on internal rotation. But if it's tweaking the knee, honor that, okay? So 90-90, you're gonna walk yourself forward over your front leg, but don't get too comfy because we're gonna move back and forth. So whether it's over the knee or the shin or the foot is fine. Don't get too comfy, you're gonna stay. And now rotate as much as you can towards the back leg. Honor this knee. What do you need to do? Ground down into the sit bone. It's probably not going to touch. Mine's not touching, but you're still reaching it towards the ground. So we're rotating to the back. And then you rotate back to the front again. So we're going to do this 3 times. Come over the front leg, come up, rotate towards the back leg. Any degree that feels okay. Okay, it's in this hip for most of us, it should be. And then rotate back towards the front leg. And then one more time, we rotate towards the back leg. Now we're gonna stay here for 5 breaths. Again, listen to this knee. If you need to adjust the angle of this bend, please do. Ground down into the sit bone does not mean it's gonna actually reach, but you're trying to sit that sit bone down and work on the internal rotation of this left hip. 3 more big breaths. Good. And then we'll take it back over the front leg again. Now, if you're able to take it over the shin, great. If you're able to take it more towards the foot, you're going to feel even more. Now, some of you, that's not going to be possible, so you just do what you can. And again, honoring what that front knee needs. You want to be feeling something in your right hip, mostly. Now, if you angle your body over here to the left towards that front foot, you might feel a little release in that side back area as well. And again, that's not going to be accessible to everybody, but you do what works for you. Definitely want to be feeling something in your right hip. You have 5 breaths, 5 deep breaths. Think of softening with every exhale. Inhaling deep and exhaling completely. Think of softening, softening, softening. And on your next exhale, you'll come all the way back up. Take those legs back to a neutral position. You're going to lay your body back down. Find your ball. You're going to lay down on your back again. So second side. So left glute. The knee goes out and in, and keep moving that ball around. Taking care of yourself. If you find a place where you're not able to take a deep breath, please move it to another location. The fascial system is all connected, so you don't actually have to put the ball on the most intense spot. you're still going to help that spot, even if it's a little above it, below it, or to the left or to the right of it. In fact, what most of us find is you start to guard because it's so uncomfortable. And if you guard, it's impossible to let go. Keep going out and in with that left knee. Checking back in with your breath. And eventually your left knee stays out to the side as long as your knee and hip are okay with that. And you'll start to shimmy left and right. Now, what I didn't mention earlier, generally speaking, when we're doing this rolling kind of stuff, so not this is called pinning and stretching when we pin the ball and then move the limb. But when we're actually moving side to side, rolling, we want to keep fairly constant pressure. So what we don't want is, oh, okay, I roll over here and it's really a lot of pressure. And then I roll over here and I take the pressure off. You want to try to get constant pressure on the area. So the reason for that is, imagine this. So like, let's say you had a bruise on your body and I pressed against the bruise. If I put constant pressure on that bruise, I mean, it might be a little uncomfortable, but eventually it becomes tolerable and my body will sort of relax and accept the pressure. If I just poked at it, it would never feel better. So if I really push hard and then I take the pressure off and I really push hard and I take the pressure off, if you've got something really stuck in there or uncomfortable, it probably will never soften for you. So do your best to keep fairly constant amount of pressure as you roll side to side. And remember, you could cross your ankle over your thigh here. You could take it to the wall if it's too intense for you, or put another layer of mat underneath you, or go to a carpeted area. And at the same time, if it is just, I'm not really feeling all that much, then maybe you sit on the ball. And you could do all the same kinds of things we were doing, clamshelling the leg out. You could even cross your ankle over your thigh in the seated position as well. More is not always better. Check back in with your breath and you'll know what's appropriate for you. You have 5 more big breaths. Slow, intentional breaths here. Just a couple more. All right. And we'll come back up off of the ball and we'll take that 90-90 position of the legs. And again, checking in, each side is going to be different. So maybe this one you need to bend the knee more, the front or the back leg. But generally speaking, we're looking for about a 90-degree angle and about a 90-degree angle. So you can see I'm lining my thigh up with the side of the mat here, and my shin is pretty much lined up with the side of the mat here. My knee and my hip are in one line. So 90-ish degree angle. 3 times we'll go to the front. Don't get too comfortable. Rotate towards the back leg, ground into your right hip sit bone, and then rotate back to the front. And take it back again. We take it back to the front. And then we're going to stay to the back. So rotate to the back, check in with your right knee, Now for me, my right sit bone is much higher off the ground here. I'm still trying to reach it towards the ground, but it's definitely higher. You might find you had one side that was able to ground better than the other, like me, or maybe you're more even. But if it's tweaking in the knee, I recommend you change the angle of that back leg. So usually bending it more is going to give you a little less twisting in the knee. We want the rotation to be in the hips because the hips are a mobile joint. The knees are a stable joint. If we kept working down, we could go to the ankle. It's a mobile joint. If we worked our way up, hip, again, mobile, lower back, stable. So it alternates, middle back, mobile. Okay, so it just works its way up. And then take your body all the way around to the front and coming over the shin if possible. That's not going to be possible for some of you. For some of you, you're going to come over the knee. If possible, you'll work your way actually towards the front foot. And if you do that, you'll get left hip and even into the side lower back and into the quadratus lumborum a bit, QL. Relax and breathe and let go with every exhale. And after your next exhale, you'll start to make your way up. Okay. So we're going to be back to visiting our heart meridian line. And this, I'm going to show you a few options. So the heart meridian line actually goes from your pinky side of your hand through the inner arm, underneath your armpit area here, kind of into the triceps and into the armpit itself. That's your heart meridian line. So we're going to be addressing the forearm area, and there's a few ways that we can do that. So if your knees are sensitive, you might decide to do this at the wall or maybe find a tabletop so you don't have to kneel. You could stack your blocks, and that means you don't have to hunch over as much as you start to release this. So you're going to be having your balls back inside their tote. Make sure it is locked down. While you do that, I'll start to demonstrate. So make sure your balls are locked in there, otherwise they'll escape. So if you're doing it on the floor, again, if you have your blocks stacked, make sure they're carefully stacked and so they don't slip. But you'll start to move here. Now, again, that's only so I don't have to hunch over so much. Maybe I just use one block, or maybe I don't use any blocks. So, and I put my body weight on here. But again, that means I'm kind of hunched forward. And if your back doesn't like that, you might decide to come to a tabletop and do it, or even a wall. Okay. So you're rolling right through this whole forearm area. You can roll the arm any direction that feels like it's serving you. Okay. And again, if you're on blocks, just be careful you don't flip them over and end up landing on your face. This is supposed to be relaxing. That would not be very relaxing. So we're rolling. You can flip the hand one way, the other way. If you're not getting enough pressure, maybe you even put your other hand on top of there and push down. So you can even go all the way to the elbow itself. These balls, they'll work their way in and around the joints, unlike a roller that kind of bumps up into bone. These rollers will work their way in and around. You might find a place where it makes sense to just stay and breathe, maybe stay and then rotate your hand and arm back and forth, internal, external rotation. Now, if you have any elbow issues or carpal tunnel kind of stuff going on, this certainly can be helpful. Just a few more breaths on this side. All right, and then we'll go ahead and release that. Okay, if you're at the wall, you could actually do this next one at the wall as well, and I'll show you that. But if you're on the floor, we're gonna go ahead and stay here. So right hand, if that's the one you were using, if you're doing the other one, start with the other one. So we're gonna be turning our palm to the ground, fingertips point towards our body. And we're just gonna do the one side. Since we just rolled that side, we're gonna stretch it and you're gonna move side to side, okay? So the hand is this way, palm on the ground. And for some of us, it might not go fingers totally towards the body. Maybe the hand's gonna be more like this. Other ways you can do this, you can take this to the wall and do the same kind of thing. So if you're standing upright, maybe you stay there. The other thing you could do is just do it not on the ground, but just taking the hand out, and then you'll still move, okay? So you're either doing it upright like this, using your opposite hand on the ground, or on the wall. And if you're doing it on a tabletop, of course, that also works. Okay, so we're gonna go the opposite direction now. Same hand, whichever one you're using. Back of the hand is on the ground. That's one option. Okay. And again, a little movement side to side. Or maybe you're just sitting or standing upright, a little movement again, side to side. If you're doing this at the wall, same kind of thing, or on your tabletop, same kind of thing. Check in with your shoulder. Make sure you're not scrunching up in your shoulders and creating tension now in another area. Take a breath in. Let it go. All right, good. And we'll just kind of shake out that hand, give it a little shake, 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 move some energy. And then we're going to go to our second side. So we're going to use the balls. So again, at the wall, on the floor, on your blocks, your choice, on your tabletop. Here we go. And you can even take it all the way up to that elbow, all the way to the wrist. Turn your palm up, turn your palm down, do the side of the arm. And maybe you're on top of a block. Just be careful you don't fall off the block. So again, coming back to this heart meridian line, which is what we are actually working on here. Of course, the fascia we're working on. So the physical elements of releasing the tissue that connect into the elbow and the wrist will help you with your elbow issues, your wrist issues, all that stuff. But this is actually the heart meridian that we're moving energy through. And some things that can show up if you have stuck energy here could be shortness of breath, cold feeling in your chest or your limbs. Some people get heart palpitations, cold sweats, inability to speak, feeling stuck with your speech, restless sleep, and memory issues. Just a couple more breaths rolling. And then we'll do the stretch. So Palm on the ground, fingers face your body or as close to that as you can get. For some people, they need to go a little out to the side. And then you're gonna rock back and forth. Okay. And remember here, options. You could take your opposite hand and do it if doing it on the floor isn't working. You could do it on your tabletop or on your wall. Check in with that left shoulder if that's the one you're doing right now. Whatever one you're doing, just make sure you're not scrunching up and creating tension in another area. And after your next exhale, we'll switch directions. So back of the hand on the earth. And then a little side to side motion. You could do it using your opposite hand if that's a better choice, or use the wall or your tabletop. And relax, give that a little shake, move that energy. Good. All right, guys. So we are going to move on. So this next one can be pretty intense. And so you'll decide what works. I'm going to give you a few options. You could use a single ball on a block. That's going to be probably the most intense. You could use double balls inside their tote on top of a block. That's going to be less intense. Less intense would be to use no block. We're going to be going underneath the armpit here. This can be pretty intense, so just honor that. And if it's too much, then I'll give you a few other options. So maybe your armpit is on the balls, on the block, okay? If you're thinking, I'm not really feeling that, maybe you use just a single ball. I recommend starting not as intense and then making it more intense if it's not enough. So work your way up. So it's digging in there, and I'm going to come a little closer so you can see. It's getting right in there. Okay. So it's not necessarily going to be super comfortable for some of us. But find a place where you can stand it, okay? So don't find the place where you're like gritting your teeth. So once you have that bottom arm stays on the ground. And remember, if it's still too much, just get rid of the block. It won't be as intense on the ground like this, okay? Top hand comes behind your head. You're gonna rotate towards the ground and then rotate up. Don't fall off your block if you're on a block. Rotate towards the ground and then rotate back. Rotate towards the ground and rotate back. This could also, I'm going to give you one more option, be done on just your block like this. So you could use your block if the balls are just not working for you. Just turn your block on its middle setting. And if you've got a wooden block, you might want to put a towel between you and the block. If you've got a foam block, you might be fine without a towel. If you have shoulder issues, this is probably part of the problem. If you have neck issues, this is likely part of the problem. If your lats are stuck, it affects your shoulders and your neck. Okay. You could also simply just breathe here and not move at all if that's what you need to do. I do like to support my head. I don't like it dangling, but that's a choice. You could take it or leave it. If it feels fine for your head to relax on your shoulder, that's also fine. Okay, so your options again, 2 balls on a block, 1 ball on a block, no block at all, or just a block. You have so many choices. All right, a couple of more breaths. See if you can soften. Try not to guard. I understand this is intense. Move it to a little different location if you can't stand it. A couple more breaths. And then we'll very carefully come off. And we'll go to our second side. I'll talk you through all of this again. So, basic version, flattest setting of your block, 2 balls on top of your block. Find a place where you can tolerate it, okay? More intense than that, single ball. Less intense, no block. Take it to the floor with 1 or 2 balls. Okay. Another option, if the balls are not working for you at all, just the block. Regardless of what you're choosing, that bottom arm now on the ground, top hand behind your head. Rotate forward, rotate back. Rotate forward, rotate back. If you're on a single ball on top of the block, be careful you don't fall off of your block. Take it slow. Rotate forward, rotate back. Rotate forward, rotate back. Okay. And again, if it's too much, just remove the block. It can be pretty intense just on the floor. And if it's too intense, remember, if you put a little towel or you fold up your mat and create a softer surface, it's not going to be as intense. It'll absorb some of that pressure. Just a couple more times. Maybe just stay, take some breaths, or maybe you keep moving. Your choice. 3 more breaths. And then carefully start to make your way off of your blocks. So we're going to be using your yoga strap now, or whatever you're using, like a yoga strap. It might be a towel or a jump rope or something. For me, my strap is pretty long and I'm pretty flexible, so I'm going to fold mine in half. You may or may not end up doing that. Now, you might end up standing for this. If you cannot sit with a tall spine, please stand. If you need a block to sit on to get to a tall spine, that's also fine. Or again, just stand on up. So what I mean by that is we don't want this position, okay? So if you're not able to sit with a tall spine, I recommend standing. So you're gonna go ahead and take your strap, oh gosh, maybe a little wider than shoulder width. That's for me. For you, you might have it even wider than that, or maybe narrower. You're going to be taking the strap, whatever degree it can go back behind you, and it might not be very far. Maybe it doesn't even go behind you. Some of you, it's going to come all the way down, and then you're going to bring it back. So what I want to see is a smooth movement. So what you're not going to do is struggle to get it around. Okay, so if you're struggling, please don't go that far, or take a wider grip. So if you're like having to do weird things to get it around, then don't worry. Your range is your range, and it will get better if you keep doing this. Okay, so don't worry if your range is just to here, that's fine. Keep going back and forth. Good. Working in the shoulders. This again is moving energy through your heart meridian line. All right, now this next one. I like to think of it like I'm throwing a shawl over my shoulder and then wrapping around. So it's like you're throwing your cape, your Superwoman or Superman cape around and then bringing it around. The arms can stay straight or they can be bent. It's really up to you. You want to feel mobility in the shoulders. You'll feel a stretch in the chest as you move around. And again, everybody's range is different on this. Maybe it's very small. Maybe it's really big. Okay, so let's go the other direction. And if this is not working for you, you can go back to some of this movement back and forth here, or you can simply pause and let your chest stretch just like this. Okay, but if you're able to do this Superwoman, Superman cape action, then go ahead and do that. And it's slow, guys, slow. All right, last time. And good, so you'll set that down. All right, so we're gonna be doing one more for this heart meridian area. And so some of you have done this with me before. You're gonna find your collarbones. You're gonna put your middle finger and your thumb on your collarbones, and then you're gonna pull down on the skin and then place your other hand on top of that. Okay, so what we're doing is pulling on the superficial fascia here, down. And then once we have that, lift the chin. You'll notice I'm not dumping back. I'm lifting the chin, so I'm stretching all of this. Now, if you can get inside your shirt, it's gonna work better. Okay, so if you can get inside your shirt or just through a very thin layer, it's gonna work better. Lift the chest or chin, excuse me, and then maybe you move a little left, a little right. So I'm stretching all of the tissue in the front of my neck. If this tissue is tight, it pulls your head forward, which can cause all kinds of problems back here. So we want the tissue in the front of the neck to stay open. Good. After a while, I usually want to switch my hands. One hand gets a little tired, then I switch, and then I put the other one on top, and then I regroup and I lift. And just some gentle movements here. And again, I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to dump backwards. I'm thinking of lengthening through the front of my neck. Good. And gently release. Good. All right, so you're going to be finding your way onto your back once again. And we're going to revisit what we started with, which was the ball under the upper back. And you'll have the choice to use that and have that be your Shavasana or not. If it feels really good in your body, then you can use that as your Shavasana. Remember, some of you might need some support under your head. Maybe now that you're a little more open, maybe you don't, but you're going to be placing that ball under your upper back area. Head must touch something. The ground, a pillow, a block. Opening through all of this in your chest. Before we relax completely, I'm gonna have you clasp your hands, interlace them above your chest. They're reaching towards the ceiling and then reaching long back behind you, back over your chest. You're gonna move back and forth a few times. Reach and bring it back. You're gonna reach and then bring it back. Lay your arms down alongside your body. Take a big breath into your belly and your ribs and your chest. And then exhale Let your shoulders melt down, let your chest come open, soften here. So if this is incredibly comfortable for you, you can take your Shavasana here. If not, take about 3 more breaths, then lose the ball and take a more traditional Shavasana. So once you've chosen, whether it's with or without the ball, you're going to go ahead and let everything go. You're even letting your breath go at this point, inviting in balance in your spiritual self, inviting in emotional balance, tranquility, gentleness, inviting in wisdom and a zest for life. Take one more big breath in. Open your mouth and let everything go. Please stay as long as you're able in your Shavasana. The divine light in me truly honors and sees the divine light in all of you. Namaste, my friends.